Hey guys, today I'm going to be teaching you how to paint a GPU. First, you're going to want to take off the shroud. I'm pointing at the screw locations to take off the shroud. These are not the fan screws. I like to take off the shroud first because I found it with this GPU. It's a lot easier to do it this way. I had to use two different screwdrivers in this video. One's magnetic and the other is not. If you're going to do this project, make sure you get one that is magnetic. It will help you a whole bunch. Also, if you could get a tray, I wish I had a tray. It makes the job a lot easier just to hold all your screws and keep everything organized. You'll see in this video that it does kind of look like a little bit of a mess. So I'm just taking off every screw that I could see now on the back plate and the bracket holder. Next, I'm taking off the radiator. Be careful if you want to save your thermal pads, because they will rip. Right here, circled, there is a plug. You don't want to forget about that. You do not want to break these. Make sure you get all these plugs off. And next, you're going to go to the back plate and take the, or not the back plate, the middle support rack. You're going to want to take that off. And that will allow you to take off the back plate. Again, be careful when removing the back plate if you're trying to save your thermal pads. Now, what I'm heading toward is taking off the fans. There should be 3 fan screws in each one. Then I flip it over and I make sure I disassemble the whole wiring connections. These can be finicky, so just take your time with it. The more you take your time, the more well prepared, the easier this job will be. Next, I'm taking off the fan rack, or the fan casing, you could call it, from the main shroud itself. It gave a little bit of a problem coming out, but I took my time and it did end up coming out. Make sure you do not break these because they are pretty fragile. Remember to clean everything with isopropyl alcohol. I suggest 99% isopropyl alcohol to get up all the dust off it. These are plastic parts, so you could put them in a sink and rinse them off for the hard to get areas, but make sure it's completely dry. Make sure you have a clean work area, guys. You see the mess that I had. Now what I'm doing is taking off the old thermal pads. These were a little tricky because they are very sticky and very dirty, so make sure you have a mat, something to use to keep this mess away, and make sure you have a trash can, guys. I'm taking it off and using isopropyl alcohol to clean off the areas, because even though I razor bladed them off, there was still residue, as you could see. And again, just take your time with this. The more you take your time, the better results you're going to have. This project requires a lot of patience. Now it's nice and clean. Next thing you're going to want to do is grab yourself some tape. Make sure you have some masking tape. I'm going to get the masking tape and I'm going to tape up these wires right here. This is on the back plate for the LEDs. I don't want any paint getting into those. I do not want to damage these the LEDs. I did cut these off here, and this is kind of unnecessary. You don't have to do that because we aren't painting the back plate. I did cover up this sticker here though. I realized after the fact I didn't really care about the stickers, and I'm also taping up where the thermal pads are going to be placed, not to get tape on those. Then I taped the LED itself, but my camera turned off. But you want to tape off everything and just edge the outline. You'll see what I'm doing here as well. I tape it off and then I just edge the outline just so it makes a perfect cut. That's what I did with the LEDs in the back. This specifically, I taped the whole thing and just went around and had the fan help me as I twisted and cut. It made the job a lot easier, and I think it came out pretty nice. You're just going to want to repeat the process to all 3 fans. If you're using a different GPU, just make sure you cover every little piece that you do not want to get painted. Remember to tape all the wiring. You don't have to tape the whole entire wiring, but I chose to, and I just don't want the fans to get damaged as well. But I taped the whole wiring. I just wanted to keep it simple and make sure that nothing got damaged. Then we're going to clean the back of the fans and every part of the fan with isopropyl alcohol. You're going to want that nice and clean so when you spray paint, you don't want dust and it'll just look bad. You just don't want dust. Make sure you clean it with isopropyl alcohol or a wet rag. When you paint, make sure you're about a few inches away, 6 preferably, and nice even strokes. Don't overpaint because it will droop. And let this dry about 15 to 30 minutes on a nice hot day. And I did 3 coats, and I think it came out pretty nice. Next, while I'm waiting for everything to dry, I came in and I decided to clean off all the thermal pads. This part actually took me the longest because it was just such a mess. I'm sure there is better ways of cleaning it, but this is how I cleaned it with a Q-tip and isopropyl alcohol. I also cleaned off the radiator of all the old paste. I cleaned the backside of all the thermal pads as well, because I am re-padding this. Some parts I am keeping the old thermal pads because they weren't damaged. Next, everything was dry, so now I started to get the fans and take off the tape. That's how they looked. It came out pretty nice, if I have to say. So I took off all the tape in the front and on all the wires. Once that was done, I started positioning the fans and screwing them back into place. I also took off the tape off the back plate. You could see a little bit paint got on the back plate, that's why I taped it. And I took off all the tape on the shroud. Sorry if I didn't show me screwing in the fans, but it's basically just a reverse of what I was showed in the beginning of the video. Next, I put the fan bracket into the shroud and started rewiring everything back into place. Make sure you take a picture, that does help. And then I just re-screwed everything back in. And this is how it looked once I was done. I think it came out nice. Next, I'm gathering all the pieces of thermal pads that I pre-cut for the video and started placing them back on so I could put the back bracket back on. Don't forget to remove the little plastic on top. Line up the holes and try to put it in there, and then we're gonna put in all the wiring back and then put the middle bracket back on as well. Flip it over and put in all the screws. And then I put in all the other wiring from the shroud and the fans back in, as well as the LED. Next, I started to apply Arctic MX6 and then put the radiator back on. And then I flipped it over and re-screwed in everything on the back plate. Next, I flipped it over and repositioned the shroud and screwed it back in. I had a little bit of trouble to begin with, but I ended up getting it. I just had to mess with it a little bit and I finally ended up getting it. This is how it looked when it was all said and done. Came out pretty nice, I must say. Put in the back bracket. Once the back bracket was complete, I thought I was done, but I actually wasn't. I ended up taking off the tape to the LED in the back. And this is the final product. It came out pretty good. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you guys very much, and hope you guys have a great day.